will honor our time and can start our AUM College of Business Finance Careers Business Talk today. And I'm hoping that, for my setup, it's hard to see who's out there. So I'm welcome to everybody who is joining us. And we're going to try, of course, we're following social distancing rules and have to wear our masks. So we're going to try to remember to speak clearly and slowly and see our glasses fog up. So enjoy that side of it. Joining me, helping us out today, I have Dr. Foster Roberts, who is monitoring the question answer chat areas. And so if you have questions as we go along, please put them there and we'll address them either at the end, or if we have to, we will get back to you later. On that side, I also have Mr. Charles Jackson helping, and he is our graduate director here at AUM and works with entrepreneurial areas. And he is helping us get this out on social media, Facebook Live and such things. And I will welcome this morning, our first member of our group is Mr. Jonathan Avant. Please say hi.
All right, well, thanks, Doc. Well, my name is Jonathan Avant, and I am a born and raised Montgomery native, and also an AUM graduate. In order to not make me feel so old, I always say I recently graduated in 2011 and, from the accounting department here. I now work for BBVA. Back when I was in school here at AUM, I actually got into banking back in 2008. It's been a blast, and I can't wait to share some good information with you today. Before I got to AUM, I graduated from Jeff Davis High School here in Montgomery, Alabama. So that is definitely my pride and joy. This city is my pride and joy. I'm very passionate about it, very passionate about community. And it's become full circle now in my career in this role where that's what I do. I go in the community. I really find opportunities for the bank, and I target workplace. I target large employers and their employees, but I am not limited to that. I am in the community in all type of ways. So if you see me leading a financial seminar or volunteering with organizations, I'm that guy holding the flag for the bank in the community and trying to turn that into some business. So that's me.
Thank you, Jonathan.
No problem.
Also joining us today, Ms. Donna Cooper.
Hey, thanks for having us. Much like Jonathan, I graduated from Jeff Davis High School, have been in Montgomery, Alabama my whole life, except for a couple of years when I was in school at Auburn University, and then came back here to AUM and graduated a lot earlier than Jonathan did.
There you go.
A lot earlier. I'm the older model. But have been in banking for 40 years. So a really long time, but I loved every minute of it. I loved being in Montgomery. Can't imagine raising my family anywhere else. Although they grew up and left us, what can I say? But love AUM, met a lot of great people here, and the education that I got here has really empowered me to be able to do what I love, and that is working with people. One of my absolute passions is the time that the bank has afforded me to spend volunteering. And that was kind of the little part that I added about myself, all the different things that I'm connected with through volunteering. Friendship Mission is a homeless shelter here in Montgomery. I'm the chairman of that board, and have been on that board for about 11 years. Prior to that, I was on the Mid-Alabama Coalition for the Homeless Board for about 5 or 6 years. So working with those in need, those in distress, has been an honor and a privilege for me. Along with a volunteer, I'm on the board at Trenton State Community College, the foundation board. I work with the Wellness Coalition as well here in Montgomery, and then have been active in working with the River Region United Way truly my entire banking career. So big plug for banking here. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but I just tie it all together with my time here at AUM and then what it transitioned to in the banking world. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I am Ross Dickens, Dr. Dickens, or Dean Dickens, depends on what you want to call it, Professor Dickens. Just lots of titles, but I am here at AUM as the new dean of the college, and by training though I am a finance professor, and before I came back to graduate school I actually worked in banking. So we're all in the same place, and actually my father worked for the predecessor of BBVA. He worked for Compass, so kind of all connected here. All right, so off we go. We have way too little time. We're going to try to get through a whole lot of stuff here. All right, so one thing, just look, in terms of just really quickly, this idea of how is finance, or of course in our case we emphasize banking, but how is finance helpful in the world? Because there are too many people just think that finance is about kind of a money grubbing. You're just trying to earn lots of money and you're not helping, if you will. And that's very incorrect. And this is something I can talk about and do in one of our classes about 90 minutes. So I'm going to give you the sped-read edition here, just really quick. So basic financial functions that we go through, all right, is one of the things that the financing world, banking does is provide what's called a savings function. And what you basically are doing, we're just trying to get a way to get extra money so it does some good in the world instead of just sitting in people's coffee jars or whatever. All right, and then we want to have a way to store wealth. So in effect, so your purchasing power will be able to be the same over time. Otherwise, everybody would just want to consume now, and you would have nothing for later, which would be bad when the rainy day comes. All right. Another thing is liquidity function, which is basically the ability to change things from whatever you're invested in into money, and then back from the money into whatever you're trying to do. And you think about, that's what stores do. All right. If you take a Walmart or a Publix, they go out and they take their money and they buy bread and they put the bread on the shelf, and then they got to sell the bread to make sure that everybody gets bread. It's a wonderful system. All right. So next is the credit function, which is for those of us who at times don't have enough money, so that you can borrow short term and then pay it back later. And of course, for a lot of us, that's how we get through, do a lot of things. So it's a great way. And if you look at a bank, they take basically the savings function and the credit function, and they put them together. They get money from those who have more than they need and get it to the people who don't have enough right now. And in that way, they make society better. Have a payments function right now. Historically that was real easy, you just handed over cash. But you can think about now, one of the biggest things going on in the COVID pandemic is that a lot more people are using virtual ways to pay. And so that's what the banking system does, is create a way that you can move money from one place to another. All right. There's also a way to protect against risk, and the biggest way we know about is insurance. But you can also do it, which I call the magic of finance, which is portfolio diversification. Which is just, don't put all your eggs in one basket is the simple way to get that across, but it's just a great thing to do, all right? And then there's the policy function, ways that you can implement government policy, and we have seen great examples of that in the last year with the government wanting to get money out to businesses and individuals, and it's been the banking system that's allowed those companies, businesses to apply for loans. And it's been what's allowed it to get the money from the government into your checking account so that you could use it if you got the stimulus money payment. All right. There are a couple other things that will show up. All right. So basic decisions in finance. So you got a finance decision, which is basically where you get your money. Investment decision, what do you do with it? I can talk about that for 2 hours. So I'm going to just move on. But great. I could talk going through there. And the basic tools that we use in finance are time value of money. All right. There's portfolio diversification, which I mentioned earlier, and there's ratio analysis, which is just a way of strategic planning that's specific to really finance and accounting. But I'm going to move on. But again, I could, these things could make up a whole class, each one of those three things. So you could really dig into them. Salaries, just real quick, just so you can come back and look at this when you're looking on the reporting. These are basic kind of entry level type position salaries you might expect in the Montgomery, greater, middle of Alabama area. We take the data from the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and it's adjusted for this area. But it just gives you an idea, and you can see that finance is one of the higher groups. It's not the highest, but it's one of the higher areas in terms of normal buying. And so, hey, it's a nice place to work. All right. So we're gonna, let's see, go turn over to Miss Donna here for talking about finance jobs in the workplace.
Okay. I am.
If I can get it up here.
Okay.
Clicking away. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. The jobs that you would find would be at a commercial bank or a savings bank, credit unions, and of course we have many commercial banks in Montgomery and many credit unions. Most towns do. Additionally, the life insurance companies and property and casualty insurance companies, both of those hire a large number of students, graduates that have completed their studies in finance. Investment banks, I looked at it last night and just trying to think of all the investment banks, and it is amazing how many are out there that actually facilitate business. So there's also mutual fund companies, the trust company, or the wealth management groups. Also corporate finance, financial education should come up next.
Someday.
Yeah, and then lastly, government, healthcare, military. There's just an incredible number of opportunities out there for those that study in finance.
Okay, and forgive me for advancing a little bit quickly, but
That's okay.
well, hey, it's just I take the luck of the draw with my keyboard here. So all right, so finance major skills. We're going to ask Jonathan to talk about those.
Yeah, so we have analytical skills, being able to dissect financial statements, and just a fun fact about myself that I didn't throw in the earlier side. Jonathan was actually a musician professionally before I came to AUM. So I didn't know any of this until the professors here got their hands on me. And now this is my world, right? Now this is what I do. And not only do I understand it from the sense of reading it, but it's important to me that I convey the practical sense of these skills to you. And when I see analytical skills and for instance, they're be able to dissect financial statements, your ability to walk people through the obstacles that they have with their money, with their cash, because if you major in finance, that word finance, if you can think about it, finance means I need to be able to borrow to get a better reality for myself. So if you're a video gamer out there, you play this game called Sims, it's just a fancy art, or even Minecraft, you can build your own reality, right? That word finance is everything in your reality, whether it's your house, whether it's the life that you want, whether it's your business, whether it's your city, your community. Finance means I come to the bank and they guide me through how I can either finance it myself or how they can finance it. And when you have those analytical skills, not only you're able to walk them through something so incredibly difficult in an easy format where they can apply it, but you can eventually walk out with that same skill set to grow your family, to grow your individual life, or even in this specific example with financial statements, your business. Software, this is a biggie, especially as we kind of have to continue to press these keys to get these screens to change, right? So software is a critical component with businesses out there, especially even if you are managing your own personal budget at home, even if you aren't in business. If you just want to really have a better grip on your own personal finance, it's softwares. And now that word software is eventually turning into the three-letter word app, right? I know you heard there's an app for everything, right? So now this software, the spreadsheets have kind of intertwined itself into our lifestyles. It has become more convenient, more usable, and particularly with businesses and public entities, whether you're talking colleges, governments. When you have a nice grip on your software, you also simultaneously have a nice grip on your numbers. So the way you're able to manage that, similar to how you're able to manage your relationships on Facebook, you're able to have that same connection to the most intimate data of your money. Hardware, which kind of goes directly to links to software, but you'll learn a lot about that first bit of hardware there when you get to college. Your financial calculator. So if you don't know how to use a financial calculator now, you will. But hardware really expands way past that in this financial industry, and it's a lot of fun equipment out there, things you can use, tangible devices that you can use. As you can see on the screen there, a nice young gentleman sitting down, employed for Bloomberg, is looking at his computer screen that is just jammed-packed with software and all type of hardware to help him crunch millions amount of data that comes through his screen every second. So hardware is very important. And communication, last but not least, this is critical in any relationship that you have in life, whether it's you and your friend, you and your significant other, but especially in business and when it comes to finance, because if you can't communicate in this important area, it can be to a huge detriment to not only you, your business, your family, but even in both way streets, right? Because if we're trying to drum up business, if you're going into this industry and you want to succeed and you don't know how to communicate, that also means you don't know how to advise or guide. And eventually that will impact how much you make. So you don't want to get there.
There we go. All right. So we have to be careful not to spend too much time here because this is the one we know all about. So I'm going to let Donna and Jonathan undertake this one, but just jobs you can get in depository institutions.
So I don't know about you, Ms. Donna, but that was my first position, bank teller.
And somehow in 40 years, I skipped it.
Okay,
altogether.
that's it. Well, I can tell you.
Never a teller.
As a
It's
musician,
the most important job in the bank.
it definitely is. And I put down a trumpet and picked up a calculator and a check reader, and I became a teller in 2008. And this is a very attainable job to get. You need 3 strong backgrounds: customer service, cash handling, and I would say sales. Yeah, so if you're good at those 3, you're a good candidate.
Well, and one thing that you didn't say on the bank teller,
Mhm.
I blurted out that it's the most important job in the bank because it is daily customer facing. And you represent the bank more often than any of us that are in offices. So we try to be very conscious of that and praise our tellers regularly because we know how important they are. They are the true face of the bank.
And when you say customer service facing or customer facing, that's actually the next position I got promoted into, customer service representative, and then eventually the retail lender. So if you're a bank teller, that tends to lean more to developing relationships with people. If you're very good communicating, if you're very good not only managing risk, but at the same time being able to advance that person financially, you'll get promoted all the way through from customer service to retail lender, or with an educational background, with a degree, you can jump right in on retail lender.
The commercial lender position is where I actually work. More specifically, the whole commercial division together, which covers public funds, commercial businesses, loans and deposits. It is probably one of the most desirable positions that you can have in the bank. And it's sometimes high stress, a lot going on in the economy, a lot going on in our area of the world. So you really have to be very hands-on in many, many ways.
Yes.
The investment or trust officer is another very desirable position in the bank. I just can't say enough about all of these positions, but one of the things that I would tell you is you learn, it doesn't matter if you're the bank teller or you're the trust officer, an international trade officer. We have those. It says here, no data for Montgomery. We actually bring somebody in because Montgomery has so many international businesses located here, particularly with the car manufacturing. But for all of these positions, I would say what you learn in school and through experience is that doesn't matter if you're the bank teller or the trust officer, you listen to what your customer wants, but you learn not to be just an order taker. You are there to have a relationship with clients and to be able to expand those relationships through the other positions in the bank. And you learn how to help a client build something. It's not just a checking account. It's not just a savings account. You do actually work on the loan side or the investment side. And it takes a very strong education to be able to do those things.
And just a quick touch on it, just in case they want to know exactly what these people do. The first two, bank teller and customer service representative, you're handling cash. And with the customer service representative, you have the ability to open accounts, whether it's checking or savings, whatever. But when you see that word lender next to retail and commercial, you have to get a specific certification to make loans for the bank. And that's why those people get paid a little higher. And then you also have to get licensing to take care of investments. And that's when you can start brokering investments for the bank. And that's why they get paid a little higher. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. All right. So if we can, we'll see. All right. So contractual institutions, we basically are our life insurance or our insurance agents. And really, in terms of, you have both P&C stand for property and casualty. Those are the ones you see advertised all the time on TV for the most part, in terms of your Geicos and your State Farms and whatever. So they're very much aimed at individuals, business type things, car insurance, home insurance, on that side. And then we have life insurance companies, which you'll see less often on TV, but they're there, certainly. But both of these have really kind of two different sides to them. There's the sales agent, I'm going to say, side, where they're really working face-to-face with the customer and working on driving business. And then there's the risk assurance side, or the risk underwriter side, who is in the background in a lot of cases, has less contact with individuals, but is trying to figure out, how much do you have to charge, and we're working with lots and lots of numbers. At the highest level of that risk assurance side, if I can get it to come up, is an actuary. It's like just the lottery here. It's like I'm winning the lottery here, just finally. But actuary who really they're usually either math majors or statisticians in terms of their work. They do a lot of testing to be able to get into the industry, in terms of getting their certification process. But they're looking, they're kind of behind the scenes, and they wouldn't do as much work with the customers. But it's in a lot of cases, if you look at the folks who are most happy with their life in terms of the work-life balance, actuaries are usually way up on the list. They're just, they seem to really enjoy what they do. All right, so we move to investment institutions.
So in investment institutions, I'm thinking about how Jonathan would have received this if I was in high school, right? So in investment institutions, if someone wants to raise capital for themselves, and when I say capital, I just mean cash, right? Someone wants to raise funds for themselves for whatever reason, whether it's, hey, I got money, but I want more. If I want to put this in the stock market, I go to an investment institution. I mean, banks typically, like BBVA or any traditional bank, will have investment shades. Investment institutions, this is what they mainly specialize in, but it's different forms of investments that still circle around that main premise that I said. I want more money. I want to raise funds. I want to raise capital. I don't have this, but I want to raise it through your investment means. But with a financial advisor, the first one that you see, those are the licensed employees that are usually dealing on the personal side. They can deal with businesses as well, but they usually deal with taking your money, depositing it into an account, and spreading it amongst investments that can yield a certain return. Certified financial planner, same thing, but that word planner is a biggie, right? They get special licensing and they get certified to sit you down and kind of advise you over a long-term time throughout the rest of your life or throughout the rest of your business plan on things to do, how to invest, the whole nine. So the biggest difference between the certified financial planner and a financial advisor is one is it's certified to plan over the long haul. The other one is certified and licensed to make a transaction that you need. And financial analysts, and this is a good one. So and we have a great one at BBVA actually and he's on the computer and his fingers move 100 miles a minute and he has all these different amounts of data up in front of him and he crunching numbers. And these analysts are the ones behind the scene ensuring that those financial advisors and the planners are making wise decisions with the bank's money, with the bank's assets. So the financial analysts can segue straight into the chartered financial analysts, which typically do the same thing. But for, I guess, different types of institutions out there.
Well, the biggest difference between the two is the CFA is a certification that takes 3 tests to get through. So
there you go.
It's kind of the difference between an accountant and a certified public accountant. It's the extra testing that had to take place.
And because of that, that was a great analogy there, Doc. That because of that, they usually take on more complicated deals.
Yep, absolutely right.
And last but not least, an investment banker. So back to my example earlier when I said when people come to investment institutions, they just want to raise capital, they just want to raise money. With a financial advisor, that can be personal, that can be for your business. With investment banker, it's a good practice and a good example. If you guys can even do this today after the seminar, to go outside and look at these humongous buildings everywhere, whether it's a skyscraper or whether it's even your government building. A lot of projects in the economic development sphere are usually funded by investment bankers. So I'm a part of several different economic projects going on in Montgomery right now, where they use these vessels called bonds. And these bonds can be categorized in several different types of ways. But if a business or if a public entity like a government or a school wants to come and say, hey, we got this amazing idea, this amazing project, but we want to finance it through bond financing. That way, the investment banker can take out an issuance of a bond and broker it, and get people to invest in that bond and actually give the proceeds to that entity to borrow and pay back over time via tax revenue, via revenue from whatever the entity is, or, so that is an important role when it comes down to building cities, building communities, the whole nine. They can do all types of investments. They can do private investments for large corporations that are not publicly traded via bonds. They can even do public investments like IPOs. So if you are into the stock market a little bit, or if you're not, even if you've seen the acronym out there, it stands for initial public offerings. They also do that, right, for startup businesses. So you've seen that show Shark Tank. Investment bankers will eventually put out their first stock out there for people to buy into to raise capital for their venture. So that's an important role, and they get paid big bucks. I don't know if 209 is the cap, but
no. These are just just ideas.
Yeah.
Going on to corporate finance. All right.
And you gave me 2 at once.
Well,
there.
that's awesome.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
The keys giveth and the keys taketh away. So,
Yeah,
okay.
there you go. All right. The first 2 that are mentioned, you see the similar salary and they're one's to the right, one's to the left. It's the accounts receivable manager or an accounts payable manager. In big companies definitely have a manager and then people that work in that area. Very, very important that it be taken care of. There's also the sales credit analyst position. And then the risk manager.
How about that? Manager.
Manager. I noticed that. I wasn't going to point it out, but anyway, the risk manager, all incredibly important positions in corporate finance. And Ross, I know you wanted to share.
Well, Yeah, just
something on this.
all right. So I get too much as a professor, talking about yield curve, which drives people crazy. But here's kind of the thing that someone who's a risk manager would have to look at. If you see the red curve, it was from August of it's cut off here, I think 2018 or 19. I think it's 18, but not 2000. But in effect, if you would have decided, all right, so the blue line is actually the early one, 2018. So you could have decided if you would have had this all-knowing thing, you could have borrowed for a short term on the blue line, and then in a year or two decided to borrow for a long term on the red line, and you could have saved your company, if it's a really big company, millions of dollars. Now the problem with that is if you drew a line today, it would almost the left-hand side would almost be at zero, and the right-hand side would be lower than where the red line is. And so if you waited even longer, you could have saved even more money. But of course, the problem is knowing where things are going to be 2-3 years from now. But that's the kind of thing the risk manager is trying to get an idea on is what they can do. All right, so there are other things under the risk manager here, if we can get them to pop up here. All right. Whoop. Go back. All right, there we go.
Okay. And you see all of these things mentioned under the risk manager there, the default, cash flow timing, interest rate, currency, operations, all incredibly important things that must be considered. And all of these positions are very important in the corporate world.
Yeah, and right now, someone who's a risk manager is trying to figure out, the implications for a business based on COVID, which is all but unplannable. But somehow they have to deal with it, and you're seeing that in terms of how schools are operating. So, all right, let's go away from risk manager member. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Real estate, Jonathan, what you?
Yeah, so in real estate, this is pretty cut and dry, but you guys see it every day. You ride by a house maybe in someone's neighborhood that has one of those signs in front of it on the bottom, and you'll probably see the realtor's picture on there who sells the house, which is a real estate broker. Thanks for putting that up there. Yeah. But yeah, so when it comes to real estate in the finance industry, you are there to finance those purchases. You're there to do the underwriting, make sure those purchases are good deals for the bank, are good deal for your company from the financing side, are profitable deals, but also to make the process seamless for the real estate agent and the real estate broker. So those real estate brokers and agents champion those transactions. And they send them on to the bank, which they have a position, and I don't know if it's on here, of a mortgage lender. Mortgage. There you go.
There you go.
So that's the position that works at the bank, who creates that deal, sends the application up to our team of underwriters to approve it, and then once that comes back down, we shoot it over to the closing, which I don't know if a real estate attorney is in there or not, but it's an entire deal, an entire team of people. What you see on this screen that facilitates the purchase of land, buildings, the whole nine, development. If you want to build from ground up, these are the people that are in charge of those transactions.
Right. And I'll just say, I promise you can find people who make more money than, the highest numbers here.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like, I wouldn't say entry level, but short term in your career, what's possible.
That's it.
So that if you get really good at it, almost all of these things you can make even more money, right? Finance education is, and I'll talk about this one, is just, high school educator, generally, $53,000 is the number that showed up in the engine search here. So someone who teaches about, the usually the emphasis is on personal financial planning and those kind of things. You get to a college instructor, so that would be somebody without a doctorate, who I'd say has only a master's, because a master's is an amazing thing. But roughly about $75,000 if you went that level. And then if you get into the French professor side, then someone who's going to have a PhD or a DBA, so in effect has a doctorate. The average is around $94,000, but new ones right now are getting around $120,000. And so that's a nice thing to do. And of course, not only teaching, but they expect you to do research, which is the big difference between those three levels. And I can promise you, it's a wonderful life. But it takes the entry price is really high in terms of, I went to school for 10 years after high school. So that's a lot of school. It's a lot of, it's a big investment. So I didn't, I really didn't start my career in many ways until I was 30 years old, because after I got out of high school, I, worked for a couple of, I went to college and worked for a couple of years and went back to grad school. So, 30 years old to start working is, I was working before then, but wasn't getting that fame. So it's a big investment to get there. So government regulation, Donna here works a great deal with the state, so she's helpful in this area.
Yes, a big part of my job in managing public funds has to do with government and regulation. This long list here: Federal Reserve Bank, the FDIC, most of you have heard that phrase, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the National Credit Union Administration, and the Alabama State Banking Department. You can imagine the scrutiny that a bank or a credit union would be under, because they hold people's liquid assets. And particularly the scrutiny is high on banks for all of the government funds that we hold on to. As you enter the workforce, you may work for a company that receives government grants, and there is so much knowledge and experience that is required to write for a grant, and then once you get it, what you have to do to satisfy the rules associated with it. But as far as banks go, the Federal Reserve Bank is our governing agency. The FDIC is who insures all that money in the bank. So you can bet that they are looking at the banks to make certain that we are following all the rules and regulations for safety, for holding that money, for investing that money, loaning it out to clients, consumers that are businesses that want to borrow the money. So the state banking department for Alabama obviously is their main office is here in Montgomery, but they send out bank examiners all over the state that are doing audits, doing exams to make sure that the banks follow the rules. So if you're not interested in the actual banking side of employment, you may be on the analytical side and would enjoy working for any of these that work with the banks to make sure that all the safety guidelines are met. And there are not any gray areas in that. They know exactly what they're looking for, and banks know exactly what's required.
Okay. So we got about 5 minutes left till I know that you have to transition, which is hard to believe on that side. So we won't. I'll just tell you right now, we won't get through the whole thing. So that's fine, because the last little bit is really general advice. We'll be, I hope, getting through this slide. On that side with the best entry level finance jobs, but one of them I even noticed real quickly that I forgot to put on there was a teller. So which is actually a great entry level. But I'll let Jonathan talk, because he is closer to entry level than the old white hair man here. We'll let him take that one.
I can tell you, coming out of high school, even coming out of college, some of these positions can be very intimidating to go after. So the first thing I want to tell you guys is to remove that fear, to remove that intimidation. These positions are attainable. These positions are realistic for you to apply for. You have to, I'm going to always encourage you to do the best you can in school. That's your first training. Ensure that you are giving it your all, you're answering, you're asking as many questions as you possibly can. Bug your teachers to death. If you want to come out of school and start swinging at these positions, right? And when you do, it's always best to even apply for internships or just check to see if any internships are out there that will allow you to really get your feet wet before jumping into that job fully. And companies love those. You know, companies love to get students in internship programs to put them in these roles to start their careers. And these roles pay a lot better than a teller role. Okay, so a teller role is just and I'm actually glad the teller is not on this slide, to be honest, because the teller role is obvious. You know, you can walk into a bank right now and say, hey, are you hiring? If you're 18 or 19, depending on the bank, you can apply and they'll give it to you. But a lot of times when you walk into institutions, they won't tell you about these jobs. They won't let you know that these jobs exist. And that's what we're here for right now today. So financial planner, financial analyst, credit analyst, investor relations associate, budget analyst. We don't have time to go into detail of all this. I would just encourage you guys, and we already kind of went over some of the stuff, to look them up, do some research on these entry-level jobs and know that they are attainable. And things that can help you land those is doing your very best in school, asking as many questions with your professor or your teacher, and exploring the options of internships.
Yep, great. All right, so I have the next one I can go about. Foster, just wondering if you unmute, are there any questions that have showed up in our chat area or anything to convey from your helpful side?
Do not see any questions at the moment.
Okay, so all right, so just real quick, I'll talk about some of the things that, of course, you know, a lot of these things do require a college degree, or if not required, it is extremely helpful in terms of getting there. So just, you know, little things that I always point out, and like when I was talking to my students, you know, in a lot of cases, getting a degree is almost more important than where you get the degree, because no matter what degree you get, you're going to have to be trained again when you go to work. You know, it's because when you come into my class, I don't train you how to work for BBVA. I train you how, I hope, to help think, so that when you go to BBVA, they can train you specifically what they do. Now, I hope I teach you how to speak business language, if you will.
There you go.
So, you know, so you know the terms and you're able to undertake the conversation. But, you know, you should get a degree, and really, I'd say where you're interested, because where you're interested is going to lead to you studying so much more and being happy with what you're doing, which is, you know, hey, I'm sorry, that's a big part of what's going on, is just enjoying what it is you study. College should not be a drudgery. You know, it should be great. But the degree gets signals where your interest most likely is. And so if you're good at math, you're most likely going to apply, you know, somewhere that has math related to it. But there's all kinds of areas within the business school and within social sciences or whatever that involve math. So you know, or if you're better with language, you know, there's many ways that you can approach that one. All right. So in my last little, we got about 2 minutes here. If I can make it advance, maybe not. All right, there were last little bits of advice. You know, these are definitely things I told my kids as they were going off. My youngest is now a senior in college. Use as little debt as possible to pay for your college. It's you know, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see from my children's friends as they've gone through school. Is wonderfully they got their college degree, but they took on so much debt, and a lot of it they did not need to take on, and now it's hard for them once they graduated to you know, get a car or get a house because they have too much debt. And so it's made it really hard for them in terms of getting on with their life the way that they want to do. So if you find yourself, you know, borrowing in college to pay for food, that's bad. All right. I mean, it's not that you don't need to eat. Of course you do. But you got to eat whether you go to college or not. So that's not a college expense. You should not be borrowing to buy food. If you're borrowing so you can live in the best dorm, you know, if you go somewhere and go to school, that's bad. All right. You know, live in the less good dorm. I finally, my daughter's dorm, her first one as a freshman, was better than anywhere I lived until I was 31 years old. You know, and I lived in nice, you know, I lived in okay places, but it was not nearly as nice as her dorm, and it cost a fortune. So, you know, think about those things that you're doing, and, you know, is it, you know, useful for you to borrow to do it? And my last little things that'll show up, all right, well, two things. What, do without the luxuries. We like to have the 18 pairs of shoes, but you probably don't need 18 pairs of shoes. It's nice to have, 18, different things to wear, but you could probably get away with less. If you're having to borrow, if you get a credit card and go out and buy these things, you probably don't need them. And it's not that they're not good. It's that if you don't have the money to have it, you shouldn't get it yet, right? Actually save up for it in most cases. And then once you go to, I hope if those that go off to college or those that, if you just stay and you start working right after high school, which is great, still be involved and grow your professional life. Get involved in some kind of professional organization. Get involved in some kind of social group, because these are the two things that are going to help you move up in life, and you are going to help give back to society through them. So, this can be certainly church related. This can be, there's so many ways, and all you got to do is look at Jonathan and all the groups that he's in. And so he's giving back to Montgomery that has helped raise him. And it's just, it's wonderful on that side. So we're all but out of time. We're actually out of time. So everybody, we already gone, but we wrote that up. So I'm going to say, Foster, was there, now that I rushed through that, any chat up here late?
Ivy Johnson wants to thank you guys for investing in Natauga County Technology Center students.
Well, thank you, Ms. Johnson, for being there, and I hope I can come back out and visit you in person sometime. So on that side, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope that's going to be there, and we are, we'll say bye. And thank you so much to Jonathan and to Donna for being here today. And we hope we've helped. And please send us any questions, and we'll try to get to you and answer those thoughts. Good day.
Go Warhawks.
Go Warhawks.